These are 25 hero tips you need to know in Battlefront 2, and the game won't tell you about a lot of these. Take it from someone with nearly 6,000 hours in this game. I use these techniques all the time, and they're great. Let's get right into it. In Battlefront 2, there's a few abilities that can go through a lightsaber block. Anakin's Passionate Strike, Yoda's Dash Attack, the last hit of Kylo's Frenzy all break blocks. Han Solo and BB-8 can charge through them, and explosive damage also goes through, but there's a hidden block breaker that new players won't know about. The Epicenter star card makes Luke Skywalker's Repulse ability do more damage to enemies that are standing inside that second circle, but what the card won't tell you is that extra damage goes right through a lightsaber block. This is a really broken mechanic in fights because you can keep a villain from healing up even if they're defending. Big bonus that Epicenter is the first card that Luke unlocks, so you can abuse this right from the start. It's great for keeping pressure when the opponent is on the back foot. So this game has a hidden momentum mechanic. It's why on some maps that have a lot of slopes, you'll sometimes get launched sky high when you make a move. Some abilities will give you a burst of that momentum that you can take advantage of. Luke's Rush, Yoda's Dash, and Maul's Spin Attack all have this effect, and they let you combo into some pretty cool moves because of it. For example, each of these heroes can lunge coming out of that ability and close in on a faraway target. If you want a more detailed guide on lunging, you can check out my Lightsaber Dueling guide here. Or what really illustrates the momentum hack is doing a jump attack out of the ability. The momentum will carry you forward through the jump, so you can do some cheeky things like turning the camera around halfway through and getting a hit into the back. It's also a way to just keep the character moving. If you're low on health and you need to make some space, you can throw a little bunny hop in after the ability, and the momentum will take you just a bit further away. Yoda is really powerful in this game, and he fills an interesting role where he's kind of a tank, a healer, and a DPS all wrapped into one. His middle ability, Prescence, is insanely strong, and it gives him a health boost similar to Vader's, but I think this one's a lot better. If you activate it while you're stunned or frozen, it will break Yoda out of whatever has him stuck. You can Presence out of a stun, you can Presence out of Kylo Ren's freeze, you can even break out of Vader's choke with it. It also stops you from getting ragdolled if you get hit by a force pull or a choke throw. A good Yoda can hang on to their presence for when they really need it, and it can save them. The only downside is that the team won't get these effects. Like if Vader is choking 3 of you at once, Yoda can only break himself out of it, but it still gives the team a health buff, and it's still really useful. The next 2 tips are about the Saber throws. We've got 2 of them in this game, and they each work a little differently. The first one is Vader's, and this one is easily the better ability. It hits harder, it's more unpredictable. Not to mention, Vader can still block while throwing the lightsaber, which we'll get to in a second. But a combo that a lot of new players will try is the choke and saber throw combo, which is common sense. I don't blame anyone for trying it, but you're actually robbing yourself of a lot of damage when you do this. In one of the last balancing updates, the developers nerfed Vader's saber throw so that if it hits a choked enemy, it only does half the damage it would normally do. A better method is to jump attack after choking somebody, then throw the lightsaber. It does way more damage, and you remove that damage penalty on the saber throw since you've already hit them once out of the choke. Likewise, Maul also has a saber throw, and while Vader's is better, I'm still a huge fan of Maul's. It's fast, and it's basically guaranteed damage in a duel, but it has one glaring weakness, and that is that Maul can't block while he's using the ability, unlike Vader. If that lightsaber leaves Maul's hands, he runs the risk of getting knocked down or shot. This is why I will never run the ranged throw star card on Darth Maul. Sure, you can throw the saber further, but that's just more time that you can't defend yourself. 10 out of 10, useless star card. Never run this. And when using Maul's throw, just be extra aware that you are vulnerable for a second. So just like how Yoda's presence breaks him out of stuns and chokes, Dooku's exposed weakness kind of does the opposite, and it gets rid of buffs on the target. This ability wipes out Finn buffs and officer buffs, it gets rid of Yoda's presence, and this is partly why Yoda is a really bad matchup against Dooku, because if the Dooku player keeps track of the abilities, they can always get rid of the health buff and just keep the pressure on. Fun fact on exposed weakness, if you take out the enemy that you hit with it while they were affected, you get that cooldown back right away so you can keep abusing it. Underrated ability, it took me way too long to start using it regularly. Moving on, we're going to stick with Dooku, but we're getting into some advanced lightsaber tech here. Hook swings are an advanced finishing move in lightsaber fights where you manipulate the camera and land a jump attack into an opponent's back. I go over them in that guide I mentioned, and they're really fun. Dooku has a variation of this move that is triggered by his attack animations, and it comes out of nowhere. So when you do 2 basic attacks, the second one will generate momentum, and it lets the third attack carry you forward if you jump with it. Basically, you input attack, attack, jump attack, and that third one should give you a boost of forward momentum. Now, just turn your camera with it. Fast sensitivity will help, and when you line it up with an opponent, you can get 2 hits into the front, and by the time their block comes up, you'll have swung behind them with the third hit right into the back. You can control this even more with a left dodge. Dodging left and attacking will make Dooku do a downward swing, and the second attack after that one has that same momentum effect. So for this variation, it's dodge left, attack, and then jump attack. Hook swings become predictable after a while, so this is a good way to get a sneaky one in there. Kylo Ren's Frenzy is a very strong ability if all 3 hits land. We're talking upwards of 400 damage with cards. Not to mention, the last hit is a block breaker, so chances are really high that it's connecting. The major problem with Frenzy is that it leaves Kylo extremely vulnerable to get knocked down. He can't block while he does this move, so it's the perfect opportunity for a Jedi to throw a force push out there or a repulse and knock him down for a follow-up hit. Doesn't help that Frenzy has an extremely short cooldown, so most players want to use it as often as they can, and that's just begging to get knocked. In a Saber fight, try to only use Frenzy when you know the opponent used up their abilities, and that way they can't knock you down. Keeping with the Frenzy tips, Kylo also has a hack where he can get an additional hit out of the Frenzy, and out of all the tricks in this video, this one is probably the most inconsistent, but I'll show you the trick to it. It's all about the distance and double tapping the ability. The range has to be right on the edge of the ability's AoE, so you should be able to take a step back and be just out of range. The easiest way to do it is to find that range and dodge backwards, then double tap the ability, and you should get the 4th hit in. It technically becomes a block breaker because the true block breaker staggers them, letting the 4th hit get through. I don't know why this works, but it does. There's another variation where you can get 6 hits out of your Frenzy too, but we'll revisit that when I get better at it. This is just a good hack for getting extra damage in there. Just again, be aware that on that last tip, you're leaving yourself open for even longer if you use this trick. Frenzy responsibly. So this is a good one in one-on-one lightsaber duels. Rey, Vader, and Yoda all have middle abilities with an animation that can be cancelled. If you attack with the lightsaber at the same time as you activate these abilities, you'll get the bonus from them while canceling the animation, so it looks like you didn't activate anything, but you're still getting the effects. It's a sneaky way to buff yourself without tipping the enemy off, and with Yoda and Vader specifically, you get that extra health without interrupting your combo. I like doing this when I'm parrying somebody because they expect your health to go down only for it to go up, and it really trips them out. So most heroes have abilities that can only be done with their feet on the ground, but a handful can use abilities while jumping. Kylo Ren can pull and freeze in midair, Luke can use his push, Maul and Vader can saber throw, and Maul especially has a hidden one. You'd think you can only choke throw while on the ground, but you can actually start the ability in the air, so you're about halfway through it when you touch back down. It's a sneaky way to throw the timing off of it a little bit, and it might catch your opponent off guard. So here's another Yoda tip. Almost all the light side force users, with the exception of Rey, have an ability that pushes opponents, and each one works differently. Luke's is just a quick push that can be used anywhere. Obi-Wan's has a manual charge up to increase distance and damage. Anakin's is a 360 AoE, but Yoda's is probably the most unique of all. His charges up when he absorbs blaster shots and force-based abilities, which increases damage and range. But when he absorbs blasters, that charged energy starts to leak out pretty fast. When he's absorbing force powers, though, he'll keep that charge until he uses the push. This makes him a perfect counter to Palpatine because he can absorb the lightning without losing stamina, and he'll get a huge charge for his push that he can use whenever he wants. General Kenobi and General Grievous were rivals during the Clone Wars, so it's fitting that they both get similar abilities with Rush in the name. Defensive Rush and Claw Rush are both really good. They become one-hit kills on troopers with star cards. Defensive will protect Obi-Wan from melees, while Claw lets Grievous knock enemies down. But what's not obvious at first is that they both have a second hit, and on the very rare occasion, a third. When you activate them, they're on a kind of timer before they end, but you can end them early, and when you do, the hero throws another strike out there. For Obi-Wan, it's at the end of the spinning move that he does, and for Grievous, it's right when he stomps on the ground coming out of Claw Rush. If you have cards that increase damage, you can hit for over 300 with just one ability. It's insane. Speaking of General Grievous, he's an absolute unit in Battlefront 2, and he has a technique that lets him get higher DPS than basically any other Saber hero. His jump mechanic isn't floaty like all the other Sabers, so if you bunny hop with him, you can chain some really fast jump attacks together that end up doing crazy damage. The trick to this is to hold block and time each jump for when his feet touch the ground. If you're not blocking, this won't work, and you can either hold the block button or press it at the same time as the jump attack. To practice the timing, just do the bunny hops without attacking and really dial that timing in. Once you've got it, you can start throwing attacks in there. This move is amazing for melting blaster heroes. Here's a small tip for the droids, and this tip goes double for Palpatine, but most players know that one. So like how Palpatine can shoot lightning using both the left and right clicks, one for each hand, the same thing kind of happens for the droids. They don't shoot both sides at the same time like Palpatine does, but when I play the droids, I like using the left trigger on controller, or right click on PC, for the primary fire, because it's the same button that you would normally block with, and that engages the zoom sensitivity, which lets you turn a lot faster. This is especially nasty with BB-9E, where you can get behind a Jedi and stun them non-stop. Speaking of the stun, there's a visual indicator that lets you know when you have it. And not just BB-9E, but Rey, Vader, and Dooku also have this indicator. If you look at your reticle and you see a bigger circle over it, that usually means there's some kind of hidden effect that's either active or it can be activated. With BB-9E, it means that you've got your stun ready to go, so you always know when you have it. For Rey, Vader, and Dooku, it pops up when they activate their middle abilities, since it gives them bonus damage. And for Dooku, it also pops up when he has his initiative card equipped. It's just there to let you know that the effect is ready to be applied, and it's really helpful, especially with BB-9E, for knowing when you have your stun. I'm a bit of a BB-9E fan, I guess, because I've got more tips for him than I thought. So 9E can do some pretty wild things in this game. For a long time, I believed Phasma could knock Anakin out of heroic might with the last hit of her staff strikes, but during my testing that never seemed to work. What did work though was BB-9E's shock spin middle ability. That was able to consistently knock Anakin out of heroic might, and it even got Kenobi out of all-out push. I usually use this ability to turn off blasters, like Leia's E11 or when Chewie activates Furious Bowcaster, but the fact it also counters sabers is really cool, and it makes BB-9E a pretty underrated hero. Next up, we're looking at Phasma, and while her droid isn't quite as good as BB-9E, it's still extremely annoying to deal with if you're on the light side. Phasma players basically turn this turret into a fifth teammate in HVV, and most of the time I see the Phasma just pick a spot and stay there, but you can also pick the droid up and move it if her teammates get a little too far away. What I don't see too many players doing though is detonating the droid when they've got someone stunned. The detonation does a solid 150 damage, so if you can't quite finish a stunned enemy with shots, you can always blow the thing up in their face for a burst of damage. The only downside is it puts your droid on cooldown, so it's a give and take, but it is something you can do. Speaking of the droid, Leia is one of the best counters to Phasma and her droid, because the shield basically makes it useless. If Leia can put her shield on top of the droid, it'll stop it from stunning her and her team, and it blocks the shots that come out of the turret. The E11 also completely outclasses Phasma's blaster, so Leia versus Phasma will usually only go one way. If there's a problem Phasma on the team, a good Leia can usually put her in her place. Leia's shield is also a unique support ability because it heals a consistent 5 HP every second if you're inside the bubble. Great for HVV and supporting the team, but there's a little hack you can take advantage of. All you need to get that healing effect is your feet inside the bubble. You can actually hang your torso out of the shield and still shoot while getting healed. If someone starts firing back at you, just dip inside the shield and it makes a really effective defensive play. If a Saber starts pressuring her, Leia can just drop grenades inside the shield, and if the villain hangs out too long in there, he will eat the blast. Leia is dangerous in Battlefront 2. Don't sleep on her if you think she's weak, especially as Grievous. Han Solo's Shoulder Charge is a great ability, does huge burst damage, it goes through lightsaber blocks, and it knocks enemies down. But there's a glitch you can take advantage of with it where Han can charge for as long as you want him to, and it's really easy to do. When you activate Shoulder Charge, just press the melee button when you're in the charge, and Han will do a sort of tackle animation, and if you press the ability button again before that animation finishes, he'll start charging again. You can do this for as long as you want, as long as you melee before the ability times out. It's great for either covering distance fast or for getting to a target who's running away from you. There's a few abilities in this game that give you a small movement penalty when you activate them. Finn's Undercover Team is one such ability, where if you're sprinting and then you activate this move, Finn will slow down for a second as he takes his weapon out, and then he starts sprinting again. The Officer's Middle ability is also like this, though not quite as extreme, but a good way around it is to just jump when activating it. Even more effective if you activate while falling from a height, and that gives the animation time to finish before getting into the action. Really small tip, but it's useful to know. Also, fun fact with Finn's Undercover Team, he can't melee while using that ability. Kind of weird, but it's a thing. Bossk is probably the most well-balanced blaster hero in the entire game. His whole kit is so unique, and it makes him a powerhouse on close quarters maps. There's a glitch with his mines, where if you get knocked down by a force push or something at the same time while planting the mines, it instantly cools the ability down while still throwing the mines out there, so you basically get a double dose of explosives. You get the ones you planted, and then the instant cooldown lets you drop them again right away. It's insanely devastating, and usually you'll do this on accident when you're in the thick of the action, but you can time a push or a repulse, and you can definitely control this. I was able to do it for this clip here. I'll take it a step further, wait until the first set of mines goes off before dropping the second set, otherwise the first set will disappear. We're moving on to Chewbacca. Chewie is probably my favorite hero in this game in general. He's an absolute unit and does so much damage in a short time, it sometimes doesn't feel fair. His bowcaster is an explosive type weapon, so the shots go through blocks. And when you're up close against a lightsaber villain, a really good tactic is to just throw punches in with the shots. I call this the power melee, where you shoot the weapon and punch at the same time, and it does a ton of damage. Even if the melee gets blocked, the shots will still go through. And often, when you're that close to a Saber with Chewie, they're going to try to slash at you anyway, so they probably won't be blocking until they get low. Chewie's melee is insanely underrated, and it catches a lot of villains by surprise. If you see a Saber running at you as Chewie, stand your ground, throw some fists, they just might back off. The last tip in this video is very similar to the momentum abilities because it uses that same mechanic. So Emperor Palpatine has one of the best dodges in the game, if not the best. Since he can't block, he needs to be slippery to avoid damage, and honestly it fits his character anyway. He only gets 2 dodges though, and sometimes it's not enough if your opponent knows how to track you. When playing Palps, I like to throw a short bunny hop in after my dodges because the momentum will carry you just a bit further than normal, and that short time in the air lets the dodge cool down again, so if timed right, it's possible to technically dodge forever with Palpatine. Obviously, you're vulnerable during the jump, but the dodge takes you so far out of range that usually you're safe, and it's a short hop anyway, so you can dodge again right after. And with that, those were 25 hero tips you absolutely need to know in Star Wars Battlefront 2. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you found any of the tips helpful, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up on the video. That lets YouTube know I'm doing a good job. And if you're new to the channel, I hope you consider subscribing and getting notified for more Star Wars content. But that's all from me. This has been Star. Stay stellar. Keep shining, baby.